Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. Treehouse of Horror is an annual anthology special episode of The Simpsons that's aired every Halloween. Each episode contains 3 spooky tales of terror that find that right balance of laugh out loud comedy and twisted horror. Everyone has their favourite and least favourite Treehouse stories. So for this festive video, I'm going to be counting down my picks for the top 5 best and worst tales that these anthologies have to offer. So grab your trick-or-treat candy and let's get the skull rolling. Homer. When Homer is left alone at home, he scoffs down everything in the house and ends up with nothing left to eat. However, when he accidentally cuts off and cooks his own finger, he realizes that he tastes delicious and becomes addicted to a Homer-based diet. Now yes, Lisa does warn us that this story will be disgusting, and self-cannibalism fits the genre of horror. Yet, I still found this story to be too much. It's not exactly a fun Halloween tale, being more stomach-turning than scary. Look, I'm no prude when it comes to body horror. Heck, I'm a bit of a gorehound myself. But Homer is a weird brand of gore that's just cringe to watch, and goes too far for Treehouse of Horror standards. It hits this off-putting uncanny valley that's obnoxiously nauseating. I ranked it lower than the others on my worst list because it does have a few good jokes, but it's hard to fully enjoy the comedy when it keeps making me want to throw up.
You see how she is, Doc? Always negative. She makes me feel like nothing.
You are almost nothing.
The story ends on a really depressing note too, in which Homer lets a celebrity chef turn him into a cynical restaurant franchise, as he leaves his family with a sad goodbye letter, and everyone celebrates how tasty Homer was. This episode could have been a campy story about Homer cooking Springfield residents to feed his hunger while living alone. Maybe a goofy little Shop of Horrors parody. You know, something actually fun while still being dark. Starship Poopers. In this segment, Maggie starts growing into a weird alien baby, and we learn that she's really the daughter of Kang. To me, Treehouse of Horror 9 was the episode that hinted a growing decline in quality for these anthologies, and Starship Poopers sticks out as the worst story out of the 3 in this episode. Don't get me wrong, it has a promising start, because Maggie's alien mutation is both kinda creepy and very funny.
And this little piggy went, oh, look, Marge! Maggie lost her baby legs!
However, once Kang and Kodos turn up, the story rockets downhill into a dumpster fire. I mean, boy does the segment show its age. Like, the show awkwardly tries to find humor in Marge's non-consented impregnation, but such jokes are deeply problematic in hindsight, and her abduction is very uncomfortable to rewatch.
You may choose either the back seat of a Camaro, an airplane bathroom, a friend's wedding, or the alley behind a porno theater.
I absolutely refuse to go along with this. But since I have no choice, I'll take the alley.
Then, after some squabbling, we get a whole Jerry Springer skit right out of nowhere, a talk show that's kind of lost its pop culture impact since this episode aired. The one joke in this parody being that Jerry's guest is an alien?
Now hold on, Kang. You can't bully my audience with your fancy ray gun.
How could have this episode been better? Well, why couldn't have this segment been about Kang falling for a Springfield single lady, like Selma Bouvier or Mrs. Krabappel, and the two try to start a family together? This would have helped the episode age so much better, with the humour coming from this interspecies family struggling to be normal in suburbia. Twinlight. In this parody of the Twilight franchise, Lisa falls for a vampire boy called Edmund, and she wants him to turn her into a vampire forever. This story was aired when the Twilight craze was at its height, and it really shows that it's a spoof written by older people who felt forced to parody a popular trend. In the 2010s, Twilight parodies were everywhere, so The Simpsons had to up their game to compete against an already oversaturated market. But Twinlight is just a series of contrived jokes that come off as first draft attempts at spoofing a well-drained comedy target. Heck, some gags go overkill and ruin whatever punchline they had in mind. I wasn't even sure what Twinlight was going for, because it's kind of all over the place. It starts off as a straightforward Twilight parody, with the typical cheap jabs.
Let us move between the trees the way a bat does, by jumping.
But once Edmund's dad enters the picture, the focus suddenly switches to the parents.
Okay. If you bite your tongue, does it become a vampire?
Look, I'm more than just a vampire.
And the Twilight jokes are randomly replaced by gags about more classic vampire media.
Excuse me, have you seen these kids?
I did. And they were sneaking kisses. 1 kiss. 2 kisses.
Only for the episode to reverse back to being a vampire romance spoof again, in which every character keeps doing impulsive things or changing their minds. It's so confusing and messy. If The Simpsons were going to do a Twilight parody, they should have branched out into the young adult genre as a whole and did a tongue-in-cheek spoof of all the cliches that come with those stories. This would have made for broader humor, fresher jokes, and a stronger direction. Untitled robot parody. It's Christmas in Springfield, but when Boxing Day rolls around, everyone's cars and toys turn out to be Transformer robots. This story really embodies everything wrong with bad Treehouse of Horror segments. Even the name of the story, while meant to sound jokey, screams uninspired laziness. There was no effort at all to make this one even a little bit spooky. It's just a cash grab on the popularity of Michael Bay's Transformers at the time, back when The Simpsons were desperate to return to the mainstream spotlight. Even as a comedy spoof of Transformers, it's pretty dang underwhelming. The jokes that the writers go for range from the very obvious to easy, low-hanging fruit.
Wait a minute, we're missing sex toy. Where have you been?
Oh, where haven't I been?
There's not even any clever satire that pokes fun at the stupidity or shallowness of Michael Bay's Transformers. Heck, it's got nothing to do with it. This is also one of the shorter Treehouse of Horror segments, which would be fine if it used its limited runtime well. But wow, is the pacing weaker than a rotting pumpkin. We spend so much time introducing the Transformers into the Simpsons house, that by the time we get any kind of action, everything quickly wraps up.
What's this whole intergalactic tiff about anyway?
You know, I don't remember.
Neither do I.
The thing is, there's so many aspects of this episode that have been done far better in other Treehouse stories. Want a segment about giant product placement creatures rampaging Springfield? Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores cleverly satirizes consumerism through scary billboard monsters who are defeated by public disinterest.
Just don't look, just don't look.
What about a story that focuses on the horror of electronics turning on mankind? Life's a glitch, then you die might be a dated Y2K satire, but it does a great job at making household appliances scary and embraces its apocalyptic tone. Untitled robot parody is Treehouse horror at its most mediocre, and offers nothing new to the series. The Diving Bell and the Butterball. When a spider bites Homer during Halloween, he ends up physically paralyzed. But Lisa learns that he can communicate by farting. Homer finds content after discovering a way to talk to others, but then suddenly, another spider bites him, and he gains superpowers. Folks, this is a really bad Treehouse of Horror segment. Like, embarrassingly bad. The main recurring joke is that Homer now talks by farting and becomes a paralyzed tooting Spider-Man. I'm no snob, but The Simpsons are so much better than this. It's like a 5-year-old took over the writing room.
Do you realize what this means? Well, it means that you can communicate. Exactly.
The only spooky thing about this story is a brief Halloween scene. The segment overall has naff all to do with horror. It mainly takes inspiration from, of all things, a serious French drama, and the controversial stunt accidents that happen during performances of the Spider-Man Broadway musical, Turn Off the Dark. Heck, it's maybe the least horror-related Treehouse of Horror to date. This whole segment, in my opinion, is perhaps the worst thing that I've seen from The Simpsons.
They say no two ass webs are the same. Beautiful in its way.
It could have been a really entertaining parody of Spider-Man that finds the horror in body mutation, while poking fun at the silliness of the actual Spider-Man Broadway musical. But alas, we got this.
A, B, C, D. Okay, first letter, D.
Before we move on, I'd like to encourage everyone to check out my friend's awesome new horror short, MUCKMAN. The link to the film is in the description below. Anyway, time to reveal my best choices. The Thing and I. Later tonight, the Simpsons kids start hearing rumblings upstairs. It turns out that Marge and Homer have been keeping Bart's evil twin brother, Hugo, up in the attic. What's more shocking is that Hugo is now free. This story starts off very atmospheric, because we have no idea what's up in the attic at first. It's all left to our imagination. Such a mystery might deeply disturb younger viewers. Hell, when I was a kid, I didn't know that Treehouse of Horror wasn't meant to be canon, so I was genuinely convinced that Hugo was a real family secret, and maybe that's why this story has stuck with me since. Things get even creepier once Bart is left alone at home, only to be cornered by Hugo, who threatens to sew himself back to his brother. It's a really dark motive for a Simpsons villain, made even more macabre by the fact that Hugo is supposed to be Bart's family.
But you'll kill both of us!
No, it's easy. Look, I've been practicing. I made a pigeon rat.
But surprisingly, it's actually Dr. Hibbert of all characters who steals this segment. He makes for a fantastically ominous storyteller for Hugo's origins.
A routine soul smear confirmed the presence of pure evil. It was then I knew the only option was to separate you two immediately.
And has some of the best jokes.
All those years caged up in here, why, you've probably never even seen your own face in the mirror, have you? Here.
Although, I would argue that there is a strange tragedy to Hugo's tale. A child who was chained up by his own parents in his family attic like a monster, all based on a doctor's superstition. A part of me feels sad for Hugo. So I kind of like that he gets a happy closure after Hibbert reveals that Bart is the real evil twin.
Mom, Hugo's eating his napkin.
So cute! Hey, can I have some turkey?
Oh, you finish your fish heads, then we'll talk.
The Devil and Homer Simpson. When Homer runs out of donuts at work, he's recklessly eager to sell his own soul to the devil for a hell-baked frosted ring. Once Homer finishes the last bite of said donut, the Prince of Darkness finally claims Homer's soul. However, Lisa demands a fair trial for her father. Without a doubt, the highlight of this story is the ironic twist that goody-goody Ned Flanders is actually the devil. This fits the idea that the devil is supposed to be very deceptive, plus it's just inherently funny seeing Oakley Dokley Ned playing a hellish demon.
Flanders! You're the devil?
It's always the one you least suspect. Now, many people offer to sell their souls without reflecting upon the grave ramifications.
Do you have a donut or not?
Coming up, just sign here.
Courtrooms can be hit-or-miss settings for comedy situations, but trust Treehouse of Horror to make a legal battle Halloweeny as heck. We have Death as the judge, history's worst villains as the jury, and the hapless Lionel Hutz as Homer's useless lawyer. So of course the jokes are gonna write themselves.
Mr. Simpson, don't you worry. I watched Matlock in a bar last night. The sound wasn't on, but I think I got the gist of it.
There is tension throughout this case too, because we know that everything is in favor of the devil. Ned not only boasts evidence of a contract signed by Homer, but is also granted the freedom to pick the jury himself.
The jury will be chosen by me.
Agreed. No, wait.
Silence!
Fortunately, and quite surprisingly, we get a little wholesome twist, in which Marge reveals that Homer originally signed his soul to her in a very romantic gesture.
Dear Marge, you have given me your hand in marriage. All I can give you in return is my soul, which I pledge to you forever.
Treehouse of Horror stories rarely get a happy ending, so it's very endearing seeing Marge and Homer's love saving the family from the terror this time, even though the episode also ends with a punishment for Homer.
Well, time to go to work.
Dad, I wouldn't go outside if I were you.
Don't worry, boys. He's got to come out of there sometime.
Nightmare Cafeteria. This spooky story is about Skinner solving detention overcrowding and cafeteria underfunding by killing his students and serving them as school meals. Now yes, this premise sounds a bit like Homer in a way, but the difference is that we never see any kids being cooked. It's all left to our imaginations. I'd go as far as to say that this is maybe the scariest Treehouse of Horror story to date, especially for children watching. It takes a school, a place where kids are meant to feel safe, and turns it into a meat-grinding slaughterhouse, where detention is a death penalty and lunch breaks involve cannibalism.
No, that's your third helping, young man. It's making you fat and soft and tender.
At first, Skinner sees this scheme as a budget cut, but then all the teachers become obsessed with munching on their students, creating an almost dystopian environment.
Detention.
The fact that adults outside of school refuse to help, or get themselves killed, makes these kids even more vulnerable, with the children being left to fend for themselves at the hands of the teachers hired to protect them.
I'm going to enjoy devouring you, Bart Simpson. Yes. I believe I'll start as you've so often suggested by eating your shorts.
However, I would not say that this segment is all horror and no comedy. If anything, it's just as funny as it is disturbing, giving us a flavour of black comedy that's campy yet creepy.
Easy there, young man. You'll only make yourself tired and stringy. Now, to check on the free-range children.
Even as a kid, Nightmare Cafeteria was one of my favourite Treehouse tales, because it tapped into fears that I could take personally as a school child, while also giving me the giggles. Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace. This Nightmare on Elm Street spoof follows the Springfield kids taking on the vengeful spirit of a dead groundskeeper Willie. Willie himself slides so perfectly into the role of a villainous janitor, with his scraggly bushy beard, rough Scottish accent, and aggressive bad temper. Only his burning corpse makes for nightmare fuel that'll maybe traumatize younger Simpsons fans.
I'll strike where you cannot protect them! In their dreams!
There's this inspired imagination to the story too, all thanks to the fact that every Willie attack takes place in a kid's dream, so the deranged groundskeeper can break the bounds of reality to make his kills.
You've mastered a dead tongue, but can you handle a live one?
The show's trademark humour makes its way into all of the bloodshed and madness too, from Homer's stupidity causing Willie's death.
Do not touch Willie. Good advice.
To a typical Skinner blunder making things worse.
Wheel him out quietly. It's best the children don't see him. Oh, just get it out of here!
But what I love the most about this story is that it's a chance for the Simpson siblings to work together, teaming Bart, Lisa and Maggie up in a shared mission to defeat their own boogeyman that the adults have created. And it's adorable that little Maggie, the bravest Simpson, is the one to beat Willie. The Shining. In this Simpson-style parody of The Shining, the family become caretakers for Mr. Burns' mansion, but Burns has cut the cable and confiscated all the beer. So Homer goes totally crazy and tries to kill everybody. This Treehouse of Horror story is a brilliant spoof of Kubrick's classic artsy horror movie, which was inspired by Stephen King's novel. It picks the film's most iconic scenes to inspire one hilarious joke after another. There's no dead air or empty space, just back-to-back genius jokes.
That's odd. Usually the blood gets off at the second floor.
While it doesn't have the same tone and pacing as Kubrick's movie, because that wouldn't fit the comedy, it still creates its very own flavour of atmosphere through cinematic lighting and inventive angles.
Feeling fine. Wow, that's a relief. This is less encouraging.
The main appeal of this story has to be Homer's rising madness. It's totally in character for him to go insane from no beer or DV, and it's hilarious that he's not 100% committed to the murder out of laziness.
Homer, it's Mo. Look, some of the ghouls and I are a little concerned the project isn't moving forward.
Can't murder now. Eating.
Oh, for crying out loud. Come on.
The episode's tongue-in-cheek parody of Jack Nicholson's unhinged performance inspires some of the best Homer Simpson animation of all time, as his face goes rubbery and his gestures become wild.
Give me the bat! Come on! Give me the bat! Give me the bat!
Scaredy cat.
Casting Moe as the bartender may have been an obvious pick, but it's so funny seeing the surly, bad-tempered Mr. Sislak replace the original movie's more creepily calm hotel staff.
Why should I kill my family?
They'd be much happier as ghosts.
You don't look so happy.
Oh, I'm happy. I'm very happy. La 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 la, see? Now raise your family, I'll give you a beer.
The Shining is often praised as peak Treehouse of Horror storytelling, and you know what? I have to agree with the fanbase on this one. So those are all my picks. Which is your favourite spooky Simpson segment? Let everyone know in the comments below. Oh, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I've been Jambareeqi. Cheerio, folks.